Praise the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and peace to everybody that's here in the name of Jesus. We're going to get into today's lesson. We got a baptism afterwards. Hopefully I can make this as short as possible. Maybe we can have Ron speed up on his reading. That's what, when all else fails, we just blame it on somebody else. So I'm going to tell you now, just in case, because this is a hard lesson to make quick. Because this is a lesson that a lot of people still to this day have a hard time grasping. And when I first realized, got some understanding of this topic dealing with Israel, it did seem incredible to me at the time. It's almost too incredible to believe that it is the way it is. But when you do the research from the Bible, the Lord got it all laid out, you know that it is exactly the way he said it is. And it can't be no other way. All the evidence is in there. So we're going to talk about Israel today because we don't do it that often. You got a lot of people out in the world preaching about Israel. You got so many people nowadays, it's not even funny. And Israel is an important aspect of the Bible. But then again, we still got a big Bible here, so we don't talk about this every week. Matter of fact, I used to try to do it every March, but I don't even do that no more. It's hard to even keep up with that with going out of town. But I planned to do it last week. Since I ended up unexpectedly going out of town, I said I'd do it this week, which has been about at least 14 months since the last time we did anything along these lines. But we're going to deal with Israel because it is an important aspect of the scriptures. It is a physical lesson, just like in the Bible. We got spiritual things that we need to understand. But like we dealt with recently, how Jesus told Nicodemus, if you can't understand physical things, if you can't understand earthly things, there's no way you can understand spiritual things. Because something that's right in front of you that you got all the evidence that you're looking at, if you don't want to take that, then there's no way you're going to take something that's behind closed doors on the spiritual level, on the heavenly front. There's no way that you can take it. And understanding Israel is important because when you understand Israel, a lot of the rest of the Bible will come into focus for you. That's why we got people that mean well that's out preaching the Bible, but because they don't understand Israel, they still missing on a lot of other topics. Just like you got people talking about the end of the world and how things are going in. And then 1 minute they talk about Armageddon, which is the final big war that's going to be fought among men, and the Lord is going to intervene in that big war. Right when they think they're getting ready to blow everything up, the Lord is going to step in. But the bottom line, if you talk about Armageddon, then you can't turn around and talk about how Russia is going to invade Israel because Israel is back home. Because when you understand Israel in its fullness, you know Israel got to be in slavery until Armageddon. That's part of what Armageddon is solving. That's what people don't realize. But so they just a step behind. That's why some of these big preachers, they trying to figure out, well, how is Russia is going to invade Israel, but that can't happen until after Armageddon anyway. That's a whole nother little lightweight war that's going to take place after Israel is back in the promised land. But again, if you don't understand Israel, then you're going to be messed up on a whole lot of things in the scripture. So we're going to deal with Israel. That's the title, The Identity and Deliverance of Israel, the Slave. The identity and deliverance of Israel, the slave. And that's what I want to make a point of saying, the slave, because that's the best way you can identify Israel, according to the Bible. He has to be a slave. And you might say, well, I don't see no slaves now. That's because you ain't really looking with spiritual eyes. Because somebody is still a slave. Somebody been brought into slavery and they still ain't went home yet. What do that make them? A slave. You know, you might say, well, things is better. It might be for some people. But still, if you don't know, if you haven't went home yet, you still in the condition that brought you here, and that is a slave. And that's why when times get harder, you find out more and more how much a slave you are. But people don't want to look at it or think about it that way. But that's the way it is. But I want to make that a point because you got some people, again, that's preaching that other people is Israel. You got this group that say that Great Britain and the United States make up the lost tribes of Israel. And that's because they doing well, and that proves it because the Lord promised Abraham that he was going to bless his descendants to do real well. Well, the Lord did promise Abraham he's going to bless his descendants to do good, but he also promised his descendants that when they messed up, they was going to become slaves in the meantime. We know in the end they got to do good. That's what Jesus is going to make sure when he come back. But in the meantime, they missed the point when they talk about Israel being a slave in captivity. They missed that. Matter of fact, they do try to read that Deuteronomy 28, which we're going to read, and they actually try to say that's something to come. No, that ain't nothing to come. That has came already. And we are the evidence that it's came. So we're going to touch on who Israel is. We're going to identify Israel. Then we're going to show that ultimately they're a slave now, but they got to get delivered from this slavery according to the Bible. And it's that important. It's all over the Bible because, you know, people say, well, that don't matter to Jesus. Jesus don't care about that. He just want to save everybody. He do want to save everybody, but he started with Israel. That's why when he came the first time, he said, I was only sent to the lost sheep of Israel. He started with Israel. And that shows you something in itself. When Jesus came the first time, Israel was already lost. They wasn't waiting to get lost. They was already lost. It was just a faction of them still in the promised land. And Jesus told you they was going to leave shortly into slavery. So that's the key to identifying Israel right off the bat, is that they have to be a slave. Now, we get into the color a little later, but you find the people that's been enslaved, then that's going to tell you what color they are. Because people have a problem when you say, well, Israel is black. Well, we're going to show that Israel is a black people, which don't matter one way or another. Personally, to me, it's just the facts. I couldn't care what color they was. It is just a fact. And nobody else shouldn't care either, because it ain't no big difference between people of different colors. Just like I say all the time, I don't care what color you are, you use the same type of bathroom any other color use. You got the same type of toilet. I don't care. Like I said before, you can be the president of the United States, whether it's Clinton, Bush, even Obama. I bet you he got a toilet at the White House. So it don't matter. Can't be that much of a difference. Like they said in the document, the what do you call the document that the United States have?
Constitution?
Constitution, yeah. I don't even know what it is. All men are created equal. They didn't mean it they wasn't even counting the slave back then. But still, we know that that's a fact. Basically, it don't matter what color you are. So that's not no big difference one way or another. It's just a matter of fact that Israel is black. And some people of another race might find that hard to believe and say, I'd never get used to that. Well, you're going to be in trouble. Because you can't get away from the truth. The facts are the facts. But we're going to look at it. The identity and deliverance of Israel, the slave. Jeremiah, the 2nd chapter, is where we're going to start off at. Because that's what I want you to keep in mind, if you don't remember nothing else, that the Bible is telling you that Israel have to be a slave now. Not doing good. Not living high on the hill, but now he has to be a slave for his disobedience. But that's not going to last permanently. The Lord going to rectify that. But right now, this is the way he is. Since he started being disobedient to God, God then done something that he has never done the equal to nobody else. He has put Israel in such a terrible predicament that it's a shame to even think about the stuff that he made Israel go through. But that's why we don't have to get upset and be mad with other people. You know, like you had militant groups talking about black power and all that stuff, and, the white man is bad. Look, this has something to do with God. God run everything. So it don't have, that's who ultimately is in control. So if you in a certain predicament, God had to put you in it. So you need to seek God for the answer instead of trying to blame somebody else. So that's why we ain't got no problem with nobody. We know everybody that needs to get dealt with in the end, God gonna deal with them anyway. I'm just trying to make sure I don't get dealt with in the end. That's what I'm concerned about. So now, the identity and deliverance of Israel, the slave, Jeremiah, the 2nd chapter, we're going to pick it up at verse 14. Jeremiah 2, and read that one verse, verse 14. Go ahead.
Is Israel a servant? Is he a homeborn slave? Why is he spoiled?
Now you see the question I was asked way back here. Because the Lord had did a marvelous thing with Israel in the first place when he brought them out of Egypt. That was their first slavery, first captivity. The Lord did a marvelous thing and humbled the greatest nation in the world at that time, which was the Egyptian empire. He humbled them, brought them to their knees so he can bring his people Israel, which it wasn't but a handful of them, wasn't that many of them when they went down there. They had populated a little bit into a nation, but it still wasn't a whole lot of them, but he brought them out from bondage in ancient Egypt. That's the big record that the Bible gives you. That's when God put everybody else on notice. So Israel had inherited the promised land by this time in Jeremiah and had became a great nation at this time. So they weren't supposed to be enslaved no more, but since Israel kept sinning against God, God kept letting people beat them upside the head, whoop them upside the head, even in their own land at first, because he was trying to have mercy on them. So that's why he asked the question, is Israel a servant? Is he a homeborn slave? Why is he spoiled? See, he wasn't supposed to be a homeborn slave, but he grew into a homeborn slave. He was supposed to be free in his own land, right? Mm-hmm. But he was being oppressed continually because of disobedience. So again, it was necessary for even God to ask the question, is this nation a homeborn slave? That's what he said, right? Mm-hmm. Why is he spoiled? Look, you weren't supposed to be enslaved once you left Egypt, but for disobedience, that's why you end up back enslaved. And being spoiled means you being plundered of everything. That's why he asked the question, why is he spoiled? Why is he taken advantage of on every hand? And he answered the question for disobedience. We ain't going to read it right here. Let's go to Amos, the 3rd chapter. Because this was a great thing the Lord started off with Israel. Brought them out of slavery, set them up as a great holy nation. But for disobedience, we became enslaved. We got spoiled. Everything got taken away from us. And it is that way to this day. To the point we don't even think about no past history. Really, beyond the countries where we've been scattered in slavery now, because we ain't in our own land. We've been scattered in slavery. We don't even think about no history back then. That shows you are really in trouble. You can't even think about no original homeland where you're supposed to come from, like everybody else. Amos, the 3rd chapter, but God had said it from the beginning that he would do this to Israel. Because the Lord say, to whom much is given, much is required. So the more you know or get from the Lord, the more responsibility you have. So Israel had a lot of responsibility, being that God chose them, brought them out of slavery, showed himself to them, talked to them personally on one occasion, gave them the commandments, actually came down on the mountain. The mountain was on fire and smoking, the trumpet blowing. God was speaking out of fire to this people. So he said, look, you're going to have to pay if you don't do what I want you to do. Amos 3, pick it up at verse 1. Amos 3, and we're going to pick it up at verse 1. Okay, go ahead.
Hear this word that the Lord has spoken against you, O children of Israel.
See, people tell you Israel don't matter no more. You know, I'm just worried. I had a lady tell me once, not too long ago, I'm just worried. I ain't worried about no Israel, the Jews. God don't care about that. I'm just trying to get salvation. Well, I flipped over and read John 4, where Jesus says salvation is of the Jews. That's why he's talking about the Jews or Israel, which Jew became synonymous with Israel later on. Even though it came from one of Jacob's sons, who was Israel, one of his sons, Judah. But it's talking about Israel or Jew from the beginning of the Bible clear to the end of the Bible. So you can't get away from it. We just read in Jeremiah, right? He talked about, is Israel a homeborn slave? Mm-hmm. Now, he grew into one. But now he said, hear this word that the Lord has spoken against you, O who? Children of Israel. Lord talking about Israel all over. So it must be important if God got it in his holy word all over. This is what the Lord has spoken against you, O children of Israel. What did he say?
Against the whole family which I brought up from the land of Egypt, saying.
Against the whole family that I brought up from Egypt. See, the Lord that's when everything began, when he brought it. He had made promises before that to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But that's when he started working on the promises, when he brought Israel up from slavery in Egypt. So he said, I got something to say against you, against the whole family that I brought up from the land of Egypt. What are you saying? Go ahead.
You only have I known of all the families of the earth. Therefore I will punish you for all your iniquities.
See, he said, you are the only people I have known. You the only people I've known of all the families, all the nations, really, that I created on the earth. You are the only ones that I know. That's a big calling, isn't it? Mm-hmm. That's a big calling. God said, and he said again in Psalm 147, we ain't going to read it. He said, Israel only have I known. He ain't known nobody else. That's why no matter what, he still worked through Israel. That's why it's no coincidence that people like us are getting the word. For who've been descendants of people who was abused greatly in slavery. And we know we still in servitude. But it's no coincidence that we've known all of this stuff out of the Bible. Because he said, you only have I known of all the families of the earth. But then he said something else. Therefore, I will punish you for all your iniquity. So that seemed real nice that you the only one God has known. But there's some responsibility come with that, because he said, I'm going to punish you. You're not going to get away with going against me at all. Whereas I might wink at something the Greeks do. I might turn my back on something that the Ethiopians do. But he said, Israel, I will punish you for all your iniquity. So this is somebody that's being punished by God, isn't it?
That's right.
This is what God telling you. Nobody talk. These people that try to say Israel is Great Britain and America and that's why they blessed. What about when Israel getting punished, though? Israel getting punished now. They're not supposed to be blessed. Not supposed to be living high on the hill right now. They are supposed to be getting punished by God, getting cursed. And the number one punishment, the main punishment that God put on Israel, we're going to read it all over, is slavery. Captivity. That's the number one. But now, let's go and start to look at it. Go to Amos, the 2nd chapter. Just back up a chapter. Amos 2. And pick it up at verse 4. Because we just going to look at how bad he talked about Israel. Now, we just read in Jeremiah, at the beginning, the first scripture, is Israel a slave? Is he a homeborn slave? Well, why then is he spoiled? Now, Jeremiah was way after Amos. See, you got to understand the Bible is not in chronological order. So Amos said this way before. So in other words, in Jeremiah's time, they was being punished at that time. A lot of them was in captivity already. It was only a fraction of them left in the promised land, and they was getting ready to go in captivity. Or by that time, what we read, they was already gone. But anyway, they was just starting to get the punishment. Here he mentioned it long before that he will punish them. In Jeremiah, he was punishing them already. Now he going to tell us some of the stuff they was doing right here to start to get that punishment that we saw. 2 and 4. Go ahead.
Thus said the Lord, for 3 transgressions of Judah, and for 4, I will not turn away the punishment thereof.
See, he said, look, they just saying repeatedly. Now Judah, because Israel is split into 2 entities. They split into 2 separate entities, even though they all Israelites. Some of them became known as Judah, the 2 tribes, and the other ones became known, they kept Israel, or they was known as Ephraim, Israel or Ephraim, one or the other. They use them interchangeably. But now, so he talking to the southern faction, the kingdom part in the south, which was Judah. He said, thus saith the Lord, for 3 transgressions of Judah and for 4, I would not turn away the punishment there. The Lord say, you done been real wicked, and I'm going to punish you, and I'm not going to stop. Go ahead.
Because they have despised the law of the Lord.
See, that's the main thing. That's it in a nutshell. Not because somebody chose to oppress you. No, because you made God mad by despising the law of the Lord. That's like in church to this day. We got a million churches. But we got a million of them that teach you don't have to keep God's law to this day. And look at the state of our condition in around all of these million churches that we got. Seems like you got more churches than anybody. You should be blessed more than anybody, right? Mm-hmm. Got church on every, you can't even walk without bumping into a church. You go on some streets, you got church after church after church lined up. Storefront after storefront. So you're talking about a people that really be calling themselves worshiping God, right? But why is your condition messed up? Why are you in servitude? Why are you still a homeborn slave? He said, look, because of you despise the law of the Lord and did what?
And have not kept his commandments, and their lies caused them to err, after the which their fathers have walked. But I will send a fire upon Judah, and it shall devour the palaces of Jerusalem.
See, he was talking about doing it back here. It hadn't happened yet. See, in Jeremiah's time, he was doing it. He brought Nebuchadnezzar through there and he tore up everything. We're going to read a little bit of that later. But he tore up everything, took people in this captivity. See, it started there and it extended all the way down to the end. But go ahead.
Thus said the Lord, for 3 transgressions of Israel and for 4.
Now here he's talking to the northern faction. He makes sure he get everybody. All of them Israel. When he was talking to Judah, they really Israel, but they became known as Judah. So he named them because they had their separate little administration. They was in the southern part. And then now he's talking to the northern part of Israel, and they was known still by Israel. He said, thus saith the Lord, for 3 transgressions of Israel and for 4 what?
I will not turn away the punishment thereof.
The Lord talking about punishing his people, isn't he? Punishing. He said, because you're the only people I know, and I'm going to punish you for everything you do. I'm going to get you for sure. I'm going to get everybody, but I'm definitely going to get you. Go ahead.
Because they sold the righteous for silver and the poor for a pair of shoes.
See, that's why it's not new us being treacherous, doing all this treacherous stuff we do now. See, we're treacherous people. But guess what? We've been a treacherous people. They was in the promised land here. People get amazed at stuff that happened now. Look, you can bet that's going to happen now. If you did it when you was in your own land, you know you're going to act crazy now.
That's right.
He said, because they sold the righteous for silver and the poor for a pair of shoes. It's like you hear about people to this day. People killing each other over $5. Killing each other. I heard somebody kill somebody over a comb one time. But go ahead.
That pant after the dust of the earth on the head of the poor, and turn aside the way of the meek. A man and his father will go into the same maid to profane my holy name.
See, we was doing all kind of wickedness. He said, you taking advantage of the poor to this day. The ones that get a little something, hey, they don't care nothing about the people who don't have nothing. And to turn aside the way of the meek, he said, a man and his father will go into the same maid. That means they would sleep with the same woman. So you see that going on now. That ain't nothing new. Go ahead, verse 8.
And they lay themselves down upon clothes laid to pledge by every altar.
And then we will beat you to church. After doing all the terrible stuff, we will be at church waiting on you. That's what he said. And they lay themselves down upon clothes laid to pledge by every altar. So we going to worship still after doing all the dirt. That's why we fill up churches. Every week we filling up churches. Go ahead.
And they drink the wine of the condemned in the house of their God.
See, we having what they call communion and all kind of stuff supposed to be dedicated, but you worshiping a false God. You drinking the wine of a condemned. He said, in the house of their God, though. That's some place of worship, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
But look, you can common sense tell you something is wrong with our church system. You know how you know again? Look, how can you have more churches than any other people and you be worse off than any other people? That tells you something is drastically wrong then. You know, not that you just looking to get some benefits out of going to church here and now, but I figure if I go to church more than anybody and I'm calling myself worshiping God and he run everything, I figure he probably going to make it a little better for me, right? He going to make it a little better. If I'm worshiping him more than anybody else, I'm really coming to God. But even if he don't make it a little better, he definitely shouldn't make it much worse. And that's what he's doing because something is wrong. We worshiping falsehood to this day. That's what got us in trouble. But now go to Daniel, the 1st chapter, because we're going to read a little bit of it when it took place. Just as an example. So, right off the bat, we seeing that the Lord is talking punishment to Israel. He's talking servitude and you being enslaved. He asked the question, what's wrong with you? You a homeborn slave? See, we used to being slaves now. We don't even expect that we need to even have. You got people all over the world fighting for land. We don't even think about no land. We don't even think that it matters because we are used to being a slave. Don't even think that it matters. That shows you God did a drastic thing to Israel. But he also told you he going to bring them out of this. That's why nothing we have tried to get out of it has worked because the deliverance got to be from God because he put you in, he going to take you out. He tell you that in Jeremiah 31 or 32. He said, he that scattered Israel, and he scattered us in slavery, he said, he that scattered Israel shall gather Israel. So God is going to do it. Daniel, the 1st chapter. This is when it began. What Jeremiah was seeing, this is when it began for Judah. The other tribes was already in slavery. But he was talking to Judah then. This is when it began for them. Daniel 1:1. Go ahead.
In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, unto Jerusalem and besieged it.
See, now I'm just showing you how the Lord called it in Amos. See, that's why I said the Bible not in chronological order. Amos come after Jeremiah and Daniel in the Bible. It come after, but the stuff that's in the book of Amos happened before Jeremiah's time and before Daniel's time. Happened before. So he was prophesying. He said, look, I'm going to punish you. I'm going to punish you. Didn't he tell Judah and Israel he's going to punish them, right?
That's right.
Well, here was this when the punishment was coming home. This when it was coming home, he said, in the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, that was the southern king of Judah, came Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, unto Jerusalem. Because Jerusalem was the capital. That's the Lord's capital. Mean a lot to the Lord. But when they transgressed, it didn't mean nothing. The Lord said, I'm going to tear it down. The Lord is of the old adage, if you don't do it my way, I will tear this mother up. That's the way the Lord is. Even though he loves Jerusalem, and eventually he's going to make it right. But in the meantime, he let it happen. Let's see what happened, verse 2.
And the Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand.
Oh, it was just Nebuchadnezzar felt like getting them, right? Nebuchadnezzar had more power than him. He didn't say none of that. That's what you have to understand. Whatever situation you in, maybe you should look to the Lord for the answer. Because you can't be in it without the Lord. That's why I don't have to get mad at nobody else because of Israel's situation as a whole, because I know it come from the Lord. I don't have to get mad. Just like, wasn't no need for Jehoiakim to get mad at Nebuchadnezzar, was it? Because it said here, the Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand. Look, if the Lord don't give you in nobody's hand, then they can't deal with you.
That's right.
That's why all the stuff that happened to us, it had to be from the Lord. Wasn't an accident you end up on a slave ship, shipped all over, stacked in the slave ship like sardines in a box. That wasn't no accident. He said the Lord did it. The Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand with what?
with part of the vessels of the house of God, which he carried into the land of Shinar to the house of his God, and he brought the vessels into the treasure house of his God.
See, that shows you the Lord really got to be mad at you. He let somebody who he know believe in a false God beat you up. You know the Lord upset with you. You supposed to know God, but since you doing wrong, he have somebody else who openly don't know God come and hit you upside the head. So just because, that show you, just because you doing the hitting upside the head don't mean you right either. Because he wasn't right. But go ahead. What verse?
3.
Go ahead.
And the king spake unto Asaphanaz and the master of his eunuchs that he should bring certain of the children of Israel and the king's seed and of the princes.
Okay, so in other words, they took over Jerusalem, they sacked Jerusalem, tore it up, burned down the temple and all of that. Then they started taking the people into slavery. But as always, they say, look, we're going to use the ones that got some sense. We're going to use the best and the brightest of them. We're going to let them work for us in the king's house. So that's what they did. They had some sense where they said, look, these people, they got some smart people. Let's use them to work for the king. So that's what they did. But they all going into slavery. Show you how you get treated when you go into slavery. Skip down to verse 6 and go ahead.
Now among these were the children of Judah, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah.
See, now among the ones they took into slavery, and they're going to have them work in the government, basically, for Nebuchadnezzar. He said, now among these were the children of Judah that he took, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, right? Let's see how long they went by them names once they went into captivity. Go ahead.
Unto whom the prince of the eunuchs gave names.
Oh, he had to give them some new names. Just like even in the picture of Ruth, they showed that went on wholesale to us down to this day, right? He said, unto whom the prince of the eunuchs gave new names. What names he give them? Go ahead.
For he gave unto Daniel the name of Belshazzar.
See, Daniel wasn't good enough no more. Why? Because you got to show ownership now. You going into servitude, into slavery. So this is an example right here. So he gave Daniel the name of Belteshazzar, right? What about Hananiah? Go ahead.
And to Hananiah of Shadrach. And to Mishael of Meshach. And unto Azariah Abednego.
See, now he gave all Daniel and his 3 partners, he gave them all new names. And most people only heard of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They ain't heard their real name. Those were slave names. See, but that shows you something about the guy in Roots. You just got to know when you're beaten. Hey, he should have became Toby a long time ago, right? Because he lost a lot and still became Toby, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Including a foot and all of that. So see, they were smart enough to know, hey, we lost. Hey, you call me something else, all right, whatever. They were smart enough to know that. They didn't kick, but they got new names, didn't they? Why? Because that's what you do when you end up in the slave. But now let's go further. Go to Daniel, the 9th chapter. See, but this is all, this was the beginning of this fulfillment. And we're going to see it extend all the way down to us because God don't change. He said he was going to punish us and punish us. Daniel 9. Yeah, he tried to hold on to Kuta Kinte, but that didn't last, did it? No, sir. Eventually, he said Toby. That means he should have said it a long time ago. Daniel 9 and verse 4. Daniel 9 and verse 4. Go ahead.
And I prayed unto the Lord my God, and made my confession, and said, O Lord, the great and dreadful God, keeping the covenant and mercy to them that love him, and to them that keep his commandments.
See, now Daniel, who they gave him a new name, Belteshazzar, but we still use his regular name. So he was praying to the Lord. Now keep in mind, he'd been taken into captivity. So he's seen all that Amos was talking about, all that the prophets had talked about, how the Lord was going to punish Israel, which we've been reading about. Daniel was reaping that now. He's starting to reap it. Because he no longer lived in his homeland where he was born at, Jerusalem. He was one of the ones taken captive to Babylon. So he praying to the Lord about his situation. He said, I prayed unto the Lord. I made confession. I said, oh Lord, the great and dreadful God. People don't realize God is great and dreadful. They think, oh, he's love, he's kind, he's mercy. Yeah, he's all of that, but he's also great and to be dreaded. You need to fear God. He got your life in his hands. Why wouldn't you fear? Keeping the covenant, mercy to them that love him and to them that keep his commandments. Daniel still knew if he obeyed, the Lord can have mercy on him. Mm-hmm. Go ahead, verse 5.
We have sinned.
Now he's admitting, he said, look, Lord, first off the bat, we have sinned. Go ahead.
And have committed iniquity, and have done wickedly, and have rebelled, even by departing from thy precepts and from thy judgments.
See, he admitted, he said, we've sinned, because that's what got us in trouble. It wasn't for no other reason that Israel ended up in slavery, but for sin, for disobedience. Don't have nothing to do with no other people. It have something to do with disobedience. Now, skip down to verse 11, and he going to sum up what his prayer was for. Go ahead.
Yea, all Israel have transgressed thy law.
See, he said it again. He said, look, Lord, all of us have transgressed your law. All Israel. See, now we reading all this stuff. Already we see that the Lord is putting Israel in a bad light for disobedience. So these people that try to say Israel is Manasseh and Ephraim is America and Great Britain, and they being blessed. Look, they don't realize that the cursing set in way back in Daniel's time. Even before that, the curse is set in. You're not supposed to be blessed throughout all history. Once they was blessed when they went into the promised land, but once they disobeyed, the Lord put them on a divine sentence, a curse. So Daniel knew it. He said here at verse 11, yea, all Israel had transgressed thy law. Go ahead.
Even by departing, that they might not obey thy voice. Therefore the curse is poured upon us, and the oath that is written in the law of Moses, the servant of God, because we have sinned against him.
Now Daniel told it, didn't he? He said, since we have sinned, the curse is poured upon. See, the curse already is poured out. We're not waiting on something to happen now. That's what they try to say. I ain't lying. I seen these people in some of their magazines they sent out. They say they waiting on Deuteronomy 28 to be fulfilled now. That's too much confusion. How you waiting on something that's already? You looking at it. We are the products of Deuteronomy 28. That's easy to see. Daniel was the beginning product of it. That's why he said it. He said, look, you have, since we sinned, O Lord, therefore the curse is poured upon us, and the oath that is written in the law of Moses, the servant of God, because we have sinned against him. See, so not only we ain't read Moses, we're going to go there now, but we read Amos, where Amos said, you know, the Lord going to punish Israel. He going to punish me. He said, you the only people I know, I'm going to punish you. For 3 transgressions, he started naming some of the stuff they was doing. I'm going to punish you, right?
Yeah.
They was being punished right here. Daniel says being poured out now. Go ahead, verse 12.
And he have confirmed his words, which he spake against us.
See, God can't lie. He told you he was going to get you, and it's just a matter of time. He got you. That's what he said. He have confirmed his words which he spake against us. Go ahead.
And against our judges that judged us by bringing upon us a great evil.
A great evil God has brought on us. Look at us now. This is a great evil happening to Israel as a whole now. Go ahead.
For under the whole heaven have not been done as has been done upon Jerusalem.
Ain't nothing been done this bad, but go ahead. 13.
As it is written in the law of Moses, all this evil has come upon us. Yet may we not our prayers before the Lord our God, that we might turn from our iniquities and understand thy truth.
Go ahead.
Therefore hath the Lord watched upon the evil.
Boy, that's something, boy, when the Lord want to get you, do you in, and the Lord just watching, making sure he gets you. See, people don't talk about the Lord in this vein. They want to talk about the Lord blessing you and the Lord loving you. We need to know the whole story about the Lord. He said, therefore hath the Lord watched upon the evil. In other words, the Lord made sure. He said, I'm going to make sure I get them. I'm going to get them. Pow! And he got you. Go ahead.
And brought it upon us.
And brought it upon us. Go ahead.
For the Lord our God is righteous in all his works which he doeth. For we obeyed not his voice.
See, the Lord is righteous, even though he's doing evil to us, because we got it coming. We did bogusly in the sight of God. Go ahead, 15.
And now, O Lord our God, that has brought thy people forth out of the land of Egypt.
Notice everybody always revert back to where it all started at when he brought Israel out of Egypt. Because that's where it all began. That's when Israel became God's people and he started blessing them, but we were only blessed for a short time. We went into the promised land and then we corrupted the promised land and he kicked us out into slavery. And we've been there. Go ahead.
With a mighty hand, and has gotten thee renown, as at this day we have sinned, we have done wickedly.
See, the Lord is righteous, but we sin. Go to Deuteronomy 28 now. Let's see. Daniel said it had happened. It was starting to happen in his time. Let's see what Moses said. And when you see what Moses said, you would know the whole story. See, God told it before it even happened. He gave you a warning up front. Look, this is what's going to happen if you mess up. Well, obviously it happened. Daniel just told us it happened, right?
That's right.
So let's read what happened. Deuteronomy 28 and verse 1. Deuteronomy 28 and 1. Okay, go ahead.
And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth.
Now, the first commandment he told them when they was getting ready to go into the promised land, he said, look, if you will listen to me and keep my commandments, you're going to be blessed above all nations. The Lord, because the Lord controlled everything. He said, look, I'm going to set you on high above all the nations of the earth. Now, that was a promise, but that promise came with a stipulation. It wasn't cut and dry like I'm just going to bless you no matter what. Like some people say, I hear them on the radio and all kind of stuff. Oh, God love you, I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. There's something you can do about it. You can mess up and sin against God, and God will hurt you.
That's right.
But they try to act like, oh, it's just that way. Look, God was talking about blessing right here, right? But it was only stipulated if you obey. That's why I said, and it shall come to pass if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God to keep his commandments. Then he gonna bless you. He said, I will set thee on high above all nations of the earth. Read verse 2 just for the sake of it. Go ahead.
And all these blessings shall come on thee.
See, and all these blessings shall come on thee. But the stipulation was in verse 1, if you obeyed his commandments, right? So quite naturally, it's another side to that we need to tap into so we can, be aware of it. What if you don't obey the commandments? You think you still going to be blessed no matter what? Let's see, verse 15.
But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God.
Now, on the other hand, if you don't hearken to keep his commandments, go ahead.
To observe, to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
See, God is even-handed, isn't he? He's even-handed. He's not going to bless you no matter what. People got to get that out their mind. They need to realize that God is looking for what you're going to do. And that's going to determine what he's going to do. That's why it's even a thing in the Bible called Judgment Day. Why do you think it's a day called Judgment Day unless God going to see what you done? That's common sense. But people want to make it like you don't have to do nothing, and that couldn't be farther from the truth. So he told Israel way back here, if you obey, I'm going to bless you. If you disobey, I am going to curse you. People don't want to look at God as somebody that will curse you, but that's the only one that can do it to you. Mm-hmm. So you need to know it. Go ahead, verse 16.
Cursed shall thou be in the city.
Boy, just think about it. If God, people want to talk about how good they've been blessed by God. Well, as good as God can bless you, think about the other side of that. He can curse you even that much more. Mm-hmm. He can hurt you, and people not realizing that. So that's the first thing people need to know, that God do it all. He said, cursed shalt thou be in the city, and what else?
And cursed shalt thou be in the fields.
See, somebody should have told all the people that was running from down south some years ago. It was hard down south. They said, well, I'm going to go up north to the city. It's going to be better. You know what they found out when they got up north? The curse is still with them. Because God said it. Cursed shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field. It's just a different type of curse. You still curse.
That's right.
But now skip down to verse 25, and we're gonna look at the curses a little bit here. Not all of them, because there's a lot in this chapter, but we're gonna skip around a little bit. Verse 25. Let's see now this is from the Lord though. This who is from. Go ahead.
The Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thy enemies.
Now the Lord gonna do it. Not nobody just can fight better than you. The Lord control everything. So he said, the Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies. Go ahead.
Thou shalt go out one way against them, and flee 7 ways before them, and shall be removed into all kingdoms of the earth.
And ultimately, God is going to cause you to be taken away, removed into all the kingdoms of the earth. This is what had to happen to Israel. He called it back here, so that means it's just a matter of time. That's why you got a people scattered all over that don't even know their original homeland. Because he said he shall be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth. Let's see how you get treated in those kingdoms. Go ahead.
And thy carcass shall be meat unto all fowls of the air, and unto the beasts of the earth. And no man shall fray them away.
Now what does that really mean? That don't sound pretty off the bat. But what does it mean? Your carcass shall be meat unto all the fowls of the earth. Now he's talking about a whole nation being taken into bondage and being oppressed. So he said, your carcass shall be meat unto all the fowls of the air and to the beasts of the earth. That means they will shoot you down or kill you in the street and won't bury you. That's what that means. That's why your carcass could be meat to the fowl of the air. Well, you know they was hanging a lot of Israelites on trees, so I guess the birds had to get them, right? Mm-hmm. The fowls of the air. They just eat your head off while you up on the tree. And the beast of the earth, and no man shall even stop them. And basically what he's saying, give you a proper burial. He's showing you the disdain that you might say people. No, he's showing you the disdain that God is going to have for Israel. Go ahead, 27.
The Lord will smite thee with the botch of Egypt.
Okay, now even diseases, the Lord said, I'm going to smite you with them. Go ahead.
And with the emerald. And with the scab. And with the itch. Whereof thou canst not be healed.
See, the Lord going to put it all on you. You're going to get the worst of everything. Remember, he said, because you the only people I know in Israel, I'm going to punish you for all your ways. So everybody go through some hard times. Everybody even gets sick. Everybody eventually die. But you still got to look at who getting the worst of everything. Who got more disease than everybody? And, you know, we so stupid. We try to blame people. Well, you know, to see the white man, he put that over there. Look, eventually you got to recognize God runs stuff. Right. See, he gave us that disease. Look, he can't give you every disease. He can't give you everything. So look. He's telling you right here who was doing it. Read that again, verse 27. Go ahead.
The Lord will smite thee with the botch of Egypt.
The Lord gonna do it to you. Go ahead.
And with the emerald. And with the scab. And with the itch. Whereof thou canst not be healed.
And you can't be healed. But people don't want to attribute stuff to the Lord because they've been made to think the Lord don't do nothing like this. That's where they deceived at. So they try to blame somebody else. Even they put it on, at last result, they put it on the devil. That's the last result. The devil did it. But look, the devil can't do nothing unless the Lord let him know. But go ahead, 28.
The Lord shall smite thee with madness and blindness and astonishment of heart.
See, the Lord going to have you just smitten with madness and blindness and astonishment of heart. You just messed up. You just a messed up people. 29.
And thou shalt grope at noonday, as the blind groping in darkness.
See, your life is so messed up as a people, you trying to figure out what do I got to do? And you try everything, but your efforts are like a blind man feeling their way around. That's all the stuff we done tried as a people to make things better because we haven't sought the Lord.
Right.
So he telling you, he said, you're going to be groping at noonday as a blind groping in the dark. You're going to try this. Just like we done tried, marching on Washington a couple of times now. We done tried to sit in. We done tried to boycott. We done tried all kind of stuff, but still, your situation is still bad. He said, thou shalt grope at noonday as a blind groping in the dark, and thou shalt Go ahead.
And thou shalt not prosper in thy ways, and thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore, and no man shall save thee.
See, and you're going to continually be oppressed, no matter what you try. You're going to try to get from under your oppression. Who wouldn't? But your effort's not going to work. So he said, you're going to only be oppressed. And we to this day say, you know, they oppress me so bad. They oppress us bad. But look, who did it come from? He said, you shall only be oppressed and spoiled. That means you just been plundered of everything. Don't have nothing. Like Richard Pryor say, they eat Max, you got any dreams? We want them too. Been spoiled. But go ahead.
Thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her.
See, now, this ain't just the run-of-the-mill adultery. This happened to people of all nations. See, he talking about straight up oppression to his people Israel. So this can't be run-of-the-mill adultery. That happened to everybody. People of all nations that had a wife and somebody that snuck in the back door and slept with them, right? But this is not talking about that. You know what this is talking about? This is talking about in your face, take your wife. That's what he's talking about here. Or else, he said, thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie. He's talking about this happening to the whole nation. Go ahead.
Thou shalt build an house, and thou shalt not dwell therein.
See, you're going to build houses, but you're going to sleep in the back, where they use the washroom at. But go ahead.
Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shalt not gather the grapes thereof.
See, you're going to work for free. Your labor going to be for free because you're going to be treated as the worst kind of slave. So you're going to plant a vineyard, but you're not going to gather the grapes there. Just like sharecropping, picking cotton, all of that. You name it. Sugar cane. You're going to do all of that, but you're not getting benefited off of it. And even when chattel slavery was over with, they still kept the people in slavery because they did all that work and then they still didn't get no money for it. They said, well, you know, you still owe me a little something this year. At the end of the year, that's what they'll tell you. But now go ahead.
Thy ox shall be slain before thine eyes, and thou shalt not eat thereof. Thy ass shall be violently taken away from before thy face. So
all your property will just be taken away, right? Violently, he said, before your face, right? Go ahead, just like your wife, just like all other stuff, but go ahead.
And shall not be restored to thee. Thy sheep shall be given unto thy enemies, and thou shalt have none to rescue them.
Now you say, well, wow, this seems harsh, but it's in the Bible, right? That shows you when the Lord get mad, he know how to do you, don't he? Go ahead. He ain't done yet. Go ahead.
Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people.
See, they're going to take your kids. You know, that's the last thing you want to lose, right? Well, the Lord said, I'm going to get them too. Your sons and your daughters shall be given unto another people. See, it might be hard for some of y'all to imagine, but it wasn't that long ago when this was happening in Israel's faith. Your sons and your daughters will be given to another people. It'll happen now, but they got some legal ramifications they'll use on you now. But they weren't even playing with you back then. They just take them. Given to another people and what?
And thy eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long. And there shall be no might in thy hand.
And there's no might, nothing you can do about it. Go ahead.
The fruit of thy land and all thy labors shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up.
See, you got a land, but somebody else going to enjoy it. And what about you?
And thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed away.
Always. You're going to be oppressed and crushed. Go ahead, 34.
So that thou shalt be mad for thy sight of thy eyes, which thou shalt see.
See, now this should help some people understand why you have people just mad. Just mad. You don't even figure, well, why they just mad? Why they looking angry all the time? Look, you go through all this, you might be mad too. Especially, only thing that helped me not be mad or anybody else that got some understanding is just that. Having some understanding. Know it's from the Lord. Or else I'll be trying to probably tear something up too. Just like the people got mad at the Rodney King thing, right? Just start tearing stuff up. Ain't got nothing else to do. We don't know what else to do. We just going to tear something up. We're going to tear our own stuff up. We don't care. We so mad, we going to tear it up. And that don't solve nothing. But that's because you're mad. But now skip down to verse 41 and go ahead.
Thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity.
See again, that's the bottom line. You're going to end up in slavery. You're going to have sons and daughters. They going into captivity. You're going to have them. This is when it first started. You had, just like Daniel was somebody's son, right? Mm-hmm. And he got taken. Where did he end up at? In captivity. Now it wasn't even Daniel no more, was it? That's what happened. You know, there's a whole lot of parents were sad. Well, that's still going, it went on all the way down to our generation. Thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity. See, Israel wasn't supposed to be blessed throughout all time. They still going to get blessed in the end. But in the meantime, they had to serve a devastating curse. Skip down to verse 45 and go ahead.
Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee.
See, all of them. Now, we didn't even read them all. But he said all of them going to come upon you, Israel. Go ahead.
And shall pursue thee.
They're going to be chasing you around. They're going to be on your tail. And eventually they had to what?
And overtake thee.
Eventually they had to overtake you. So you just curse now. Go ahead.
Till thou be destroyed.
And you're going to be destroyed. And that's the way it is. The only difference is that he didn't mean totally wiped out, annihilated. But for all practical purposes, Israel is destroyed. Anytime you've been taken into slavery, carted off into slavery, don't even remember what home is. Don't have an inkling of your history. You are destroyed as a people. You destroyed. And then it's even worse, like he said in Isaiah, the 1st chapter, all this happened to you and you don't even care. He said the ox know his owner. The ox, a dumb animal. He said the ox know his owner. And the ass, another animal, know his master's crib. But he said Israel don't know, and worse, he don't even consider. So we satisfied with just being a slave. Even some people say, I didn't talk, especially younger people, I talk to them, they say, man, you know, I ain't no Israel, I ain't no slave either. But then you start asking a few little questions like who are you and where you come from, they can't answer that. They can't get, even if they tried to go back, they're going to go to a whole continent called Africa. So, okay, well, when you going to go home? And when you do go home, I hope you find a country in Africa to fly to. Because the pilot won't know where to drop you off if you just tell him Africa. But that shows you how messed up we are. But that's what he's telling us. He said these curses going to come on us and destroy us. Finish verse 45.
Because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he command thee.
That's the reason why, again, disobedience. Verse 46.
And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever.
See, this must be important. The Lord dedicating all this time to tell us about it. He said, these curses are going to destroy you as a people. And let you know you're still around, because he said, and they, talking about what? The curses. They shall be upon you for a sign and a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. That means once these curses went in effect, that means they was going to be on you to the end of time. It don't matter how long it take, no matter how many babies you have, every time you have a baby, they're going to be born into a bad situation. Messed up. That's what he said. They shall be upon you and your seed. A sign and a wonder upon thy seed forever. So, since Israel has been destroyed as a people, they don't have no knowledge of who they used to be. The only way we can recognize who Israel is by the sign. That's why the title of this lesson is the identity. See, we got to have, because of this circumstance that God put Israel in, we got to use the tool to identify Israel. It's only one tool to identify them. See, that's why all these people, they can't talk about none of this. All these people that try to say, you know, even if they say the Jews over there is Israel. When did all this happen to them? This never happened to them. So they don't fit the criteria. Like the organizations say, Great Britain and America has somehow magically been transformed into being Israel. When did all this happen to Great Britain and America? And Israel is one group of people anyway, not a smorgasbord of people. Right. But anyway, he said, look, at verse 46, read it again.
And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever.
See, these curses is they. They going to be on you and on your seed for a sign and a wonder forever. So this is how we can identify Israel. We have to follow the sign. The sign is the curses. We find the people who've been cursed like God have said, then we know Israel. And it's a wonder because if you don't know it's a sign, the other option for you is to wonder, what in the world is wrong? Why am I so messed up? Why people just don't like me? Like the little article I sent an email to some people about how they didn't even want the kids in Philadelphia to play swim in the pool. See, we thought all that stuff's supposed to be over with. No, you just ain't went to the wrong area lately. Now they went to this pool to swim, trying to get away from the summer heat, and they talking about, what are these black people doing in this pool? All the other people got out the pool. And told them, look, y'all can't come back. We made a mistake. We didn't realize. So it just go to show you. So if you don't know no better, like all them kids, they had them on the news. Hey, they wonder, why they treat me like this? What have I done to be treated? This is what you done. Right. You born from these people. So the Lord said, they shall be upon thee for a sign and a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. That means long as you having babies, this is the condition they're going to be born into. They haven't done nothing wrong, but that shows you how perfect God is with doing you in, too.
That's right.
Babies ain't even born. He told you in the Ten Commandments, he said, I will punish you to the third and fourth generation. But now he said this is going to be all the way to the end. But now 47, go ahead.
Because thou servest not the Lord thy God with joyfulness.
Oh, that's the reason why. Go ahead.
And with gladness of heart, for the abundance of all things. Therefore shalt thou serve thy enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee.
See, you didn't want to serve the Lord, you got to serve your enemies. In what?
In hunger, and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things.
See, you're going to be suffering, serving your enemies. You're going to be desiring all kind of stuff, be in need of everything. Go ahead.
And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee.
See, and you're going to be oppressed. It's going to be like an oak and iron, a yoke of iron around your neck. And you're going to be destroyed as a people. That's what we are. That's why we don't think nothing about killing each other, because we don't feel we got no affiliation with nobody else. But go ahead. Skip down to verse 63. We're going to wrap this chapter up. Go ahead.
And it shall come to pass that as the Lord rejoice over you to do you good.
Now he did that for a small moment till we disobeyed. So just like the Lord rejoiced to do us good. See, the Lord can do you good, but we must acknowledge the Lord can do you bad. Just like he rejoiced to do us good, what he going to do now?
And to multiply you, so the Lord will rejoice over you to destroy you.
See, not only is the Lord saying he going to destroy you, Israel, he going to bring you into slavery all over the world. You're going to be removed into all the kingdom. The Lord is going to like it doing it. The Lord is liking it. He said, because I got to pay you back. He's like, this is your just due. So he said, the Lord is going to rejoice over you to destroy you. To do what else?
And to bring you to naught.
That's nothing. Go ahead.
And ye shall be plucked from off the land, whether thou goest to possess it.
See, you weren't going to migrate. You weren't going to migrate. You're going to get plucked from off your land. That means somebody going to come get you. See, there's only one people in this country. And then all over these other islands and all over the place that didn't migrate on their own here, they was plucked from where they was at and brought here. It's only one people. That's how you can identify who Israel is. But go ahead.
And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from the one end of the earth even unto the other.
See, Israel scattered all over, not just here, all over. And the Lord did it. Go ahead.
And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone.
Now you see why none of our churches ain't working. Why we got all these churches. He told you we was going to get scattered all over and serve other gods. That's why he's still not blessing Nothing we do because we still are serving other gods. That's what he said right here. Go ahead.
And among these nations shalt thou find no ease. Neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest. But the Lord shall give thee there a trembling heart and failing eyes and sorrow of mind.
See, you ain't going to get no rest. Go ahead.
And thy life shall hang in doubt before thee.
See, you most likely to be killed. That's just the way it is. Now, everybody go through hard times. People from all nations get killed. But who is most likely? Go ahead.
And thou shalt fear day and night, and shalt have no assurance of thy life.
Go ahead.
In the morning thou shalt say, would God it were evening. And at evening thou shalt say, would God it was morning. For fear of thy heart wherewith thou shalt fear, for the sight of thy eyes which thou shalt see.
Now who done went through feelings like this? It might not be as bad right now, but it had to happen, brothers and sisters. So who done been in a situation where they couldn't have no rest day or night, couldn't have no assurance. It was no relief from their oppression. Who done went through that? He said in the morning you say, would God it were evening. You ain't satisfied at no time because you mess around not too long ago, and it still could happen now, but it's not as openly now. But not too long ago, you mess around in the daytime, if you look the wrong way, you've been got taken out the game. You'd have raised your eyes at the wrong moment. What you looking at, boy? And it'd be ready to start a fight. Okay? So, hey, I wish it was at night I was at home. But then when you was at night at home, they might come up in there and burn the house down. So you ain't never had no rest. Only one people has been in, as a whole, they've been in a predicament like this. Go ahead. What else he say? 68.
And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again. And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you.
See, and he summed it up with the ultimate, that you just going to be in slavery, and you're going to be so far in slavery, you even going to go in ship. That's what Egypt is. Egypt don't mean literally Egypt because they just walked out of Egypt to the promised land. He said the Lord going to bring you into Egypt again with ships. Egypt represents bondage in this case. So ultimately, not only are you going in slavery, you going in slavery so far, they're going to come get some ships to take you. They ain't going to be able to walk you over there. They're going to get some ships and take you. That's what he's talking about. He said you're going to go into Egypt again with ships. Let you know he's talking about slavery because at the end he said, and there ye shall be sold unto your enemies. Somebody is going to sell and buy you just like you sell and buy any other property because that's what you're going to be. And there you shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen. That's male and female slaves. They didn't care either one. They would sell both. And no man shall buy you, meaning somebody had to buy you if you were sold. That means nobody's going to redeem you or buy you back. In other words, you're going to be gone. Just like it's a funny thing, a lot of times we've had leaders talk about we need to look at Africa. We need to consider going back to Africa. Look, Africa ain't looking for you. Africa ain't never came one time and said, hey, my people got sold over here. Y'all need to let them go. Let them come back. Ain't nobody came looking for you, have it? So that should teach you something. That's what he said here. In other words, once you go into slavery, the Lord telling you right here, you will be there. You will be there. Only one thing going to get you out of this, and that's the Lord himself. The whole world going to have to end before you get out of this. So we better be hoping the end is near, because until the end comes, guess where you're going to be at? In slavery. That's the way it is. That's why every generation come, you born into slavery. Don't even know where home is. But that's what he tells you. Now let's go to Joel, the 3rd chapter. Joel 3. I don't think Ryan reading fast enough because it's looking kind of bleak. It's looking kind of bleak for y'all. Joel 3, and we're going to pick it up at verse 1. Joel 3 and 1. Now, again, we know that happened because Daniel said the curse got poured out, and we saw him as an example. That was the beginning of it. But we're going to show it extended all the way down to us, and even worse treatment than what Daniel got. We saw he got a new name and all that. But it got worse than that. Joel 3:1. Go ahead.
For behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem, I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat.
See, now notice again, always reference Israel as a slave or captivity. That's why the title is The Identity and Deliverance of Israel the Slave. See, Israel is a slave. That's how you can identify him. Led into bondage. And eventually we got to get delivered from this. So even right here, he said, at the set time, he said, when he shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem. Because at the end of time, that's what the Lord going to do. He going to bring us back from captivity. So what is he going to do? He going to bring all the nations down. That's why he said, verse 2, I will gather all nations and bring them down to the valley of Jehoshaphat. And what he going to do? Read the end of that second verse again.
And I will plead with them for my people and my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land.
See, God going to gather all the nations to bring Israel back. He going to beat them down at Armageddon. So this is what he's talking about. This is when he's going to bring us from captivity. It wasn't going to happen under this world system. It's not going to happen. That's why the time we come back from slavery is when he gathered all the nations to the war at Armageddon. Or in this case, he said Jehoshaphat, which is where Jehovah judged. So he going to get them down there, and he said, what? I will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage, Israel. We're still talking about Israel, right?
Yep.
Now, what did happen to Israel? He said, whom they have scattered among the nations. Now, God is funny. God said he was going to do it, but now he blamed the nations now. Because now it's time to rectify it, and the nation's not going to let them rectify it. It's just like God can tell the world right now. He can say, look, I've been punishing my people Israel for disobedience. Now I want you to let them go and have their land back. What do you think the nations will tell God? Get lost, God. They ain't going to go for that. They're going to run it how they see fit. So God is going to have to deal with the nations then. He said, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted his land. Verse 2, verse 3, what else have they done to Israel? Go ahead.
And they have cast lots for my people.
And they cast lots for my people. We saw that. They had auction blocks and all kind of stuff. I don't even have to bring all of that evidence because everybody should know that. But I didn't make copies of all that stuff, but we got some little artifacts that they have. We got it in the back anyway because I can't hardly see this. But how they just had auctions to sell people just like any other type of property. Just like you auction off anything. They did it. So he said they cast lots for my people and what else?
And have given a boy for an harlot. And sold a girl for wine that they might drink.
See, and they traded a girl, a living person for some wine. And for a prostitute. They traded a boy. He said they have given a girl for wine that they might drink. A boy, he said, for an harlot, for a prostitute. So they treated you just like a box of cargo because that's all they looked at you as. Go ahead, verse 4.
Yea, and what have ye to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon, and all the coasts of Palatine? Will ye render me a recompense? And if ye recompense me swiftly and speedily, will I return your recompense upon your own head.
Now the Lord talking about other people who live along Israel's coast. He said, I'm going to pay you back for what you've done. Because again, he said in Deuteronomy 28, we was going to be sold. We was going to go on ships and we was going to be sold to our enemies for bondmen and bondwomen when we made it back to slavery, which was Egypt. He said, you're going to be sold. So that means not only did somebody buy you, somebody sold you to somebody else. And that's what happened. Israel's neighbors captured them and sold them. And then even when you're in other places, you've been in other countries, when times got hard, they needed some extra money, hey, they'd sell you then. But go ahead.
5. Because ye have taken my silver and my gold, and have carried into your temples my goodly pleasant things. The children also of Judah and of the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians.
See, you got sold unto the Grecians. So this again is what Israel's plight is.